Hi and welcome to Fluff Up. For today's video, I will be making a miniature woolen diorama of a hobbit-hole from the Tolkien books. I had the idea for today's project from this needle felting book. The book showed how to make little castles and homes inside teacups, and I wanted to make something like it. I decided to make the coziest place on Middle-earth, a hobbit-hole, specifically Bilbo's, since I'm basing the design on his home from the movies. I wanted the project to be hollow so that I could light it up later. So I started by making a frame out of 18-gauge wire. I used floral tape to hold the connections tighter and then started wrapping it with wool. As I always say, be really careful when felting around the wire so that you don't snap your needle against it. Then I used yellow wool to start shaping the front of the house, and I made sure to make it strong enough to hold the windows and the door later. I made frames for the windows by cutting up flat felt, and then started working on the window panes. I wanted to make the windows as translucent as I could, so I split a sheet of flat felt in half and carefully attached it to the window frames. I used flat felt for the frames so that I could keep the bricks thin and not have to add too much wool. It also has a different texture and that gives it a bit of contrast against the rest of the wool. I used an awl to open up space for the windows and then started pushing the wool apart so that I could make it big enough. Once I had the door and the windows in place, I started felting the front wall onto the main structure. Hobbit holes are described as holes in the ground, and in the movie they are shown as being carved into hills. So I made a half dome as the basic structure. I then added the arch and the wooden details on the front of the house. I used great flat felt to make the doorstep and the stairs that lead to Bilbo's house. Once the main home was done, I started working on all the grass covering it and the garden that surrounds it. For the grass, I pushed the wool in along the middle of the fiber so that the ends stick up like blades of grass. Since I was putting a light inside, I decided to open more windows on the sides of the house, and then I covered them with the same thin flat felt. I wanted to make little flowers and leaves for bushes, but because of the scale of the project, they had to be very small. So, to make the wool easier to control, I decided to lightly wet felt it before trying to shape the leaves and flowers. I wrapped the wool around some straws and then soaked them in hot water. I then put some shampoo on my hands and spun the straws so they would felt. I repeated the process a couple times, but I didn't need them to be too tightly felted, so it didn't take long before they were ready. Once they were dry, I pulled them off the straws and I could use them on my project. I used all my different shades of green to make the garden look more lively, like it does in the movie. I made little flower stems by spinning the wool in my hands with a little bit of warm soapy water. It made the stems just strong enough to support the little flowers. Once I was getting the yard finished, I realized I wanted the garden to look bigger, and that the cup I had chosen was too small. So I switched to a bigger one and started adding more grass and more stairs. I actually forgot to put the brass doorknob at the door, so that was the very last step in this whole project. I put in a bit of foam underneath to support the hobbit-hole, and finally put the lights. And here is my needle felted hobbit-hole in a cup. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you like it and that you subscribe if you want to see my future projects.